Game development is difficult, we all know that. You need to make 3D models, texture them, rig them, animate them, you need to design levels, fill them with sounds and lighting, you need to make music, and about 100 other little things. There's no way you could possibly do that all by yourself. So, with today's sponsor, Fiverr, we can fill in those gaps in our time and our knowledge and get some help creating the very best game that we can. Take me for instance. At the moment, I am so focused on gameplay and doing level design that I don't really have much time left over to make the actual assets to go inside of those levels. I mean, anyone who has seen me do art creation on live streams will know that I'm unbearably slow when I'm making models. Hardly ideal for when I'm already busy with other stuff. So, what we'll do here is I'll commission a couple of artists to create a few things for me. I need some props, just something that I can use to decorate my level with. I need a weapon as a reward for finishing this level, and I need a character model for an enemy that you will fight within this level. With all that, I should be able to get a good head start on actually making the level right here. So let's head over to Fiverr and see if we can't find any freelancers willing to help us out. Of course, in order for these people to know what they have to make, I need to make a quick selection of screenshots for my game, from the levels that already are more or less finished, so they know what kind of style they're working with. Something I especially think will be relevant for the character model. I then also spent a little bit of time gathering some reference images for what I imagine that these final models could potentially look like. With all of those preparations out of the way, it's time to start contacting seller number 1. For this one, I only wanted to see if we could get a simple model done for cheap. Something to just decorate my level with to make it look somewhat more interesting, you know? And after contacting a few sellers, I found somebody that was happy to work with me on this. Hey there, I'm looking for a simple model for my game, something like a sarcophagus or a casket. I'll include a few pictures of the general shape or vibe that I have in mind. I'll also attach a few screenshots and a short gameplay snippet of the game, so you have some idea for the visual style of the game. Do you think you can do something like that? I imagine the rough shape would be like the first image, but the material would be a little bit closer to the other two images, something like a dark yellowish brown stone. What would be the options for either your basic or standard tier pricing for something like this?
Hello, thank you for contacting me. Yes, I can definitely do that sarcophagus model for you. If it's not supposed to be rigged animated, then we could go for 15 euros if it is okay for you. Also, that cell shading black outline on your models is directly in your material in the game engine, right? Because I have never done this.
15 would be great, no need to rig or animate anything. Although, it would be nice if there would be a separate lid. That way I can position things differently for each instance in engine for a little bit of variation. The black outline and shading are post-processing effects in engine indeed, so no need to worry about any of that. And not even a day later, I already had a delivery. I downloaded it and checked it out in engine, and this looks really well done. It only has a total of 76 triangles, so it's also super efficient. Possibly a bit more efficient than altogether would have been needed for me, but hey, there's no such thing as too efficient, right? This is just downright awesome, and for only $15. If I wasn't too busy to do this myself, with my skill level, I would have probably spent about an hour on this entire process, maybe a little bit more. So that price makes it well worth my time. While that artist was working though, I already took steps to find the next one to help me create a weapon. For those of you who haven't been following along with my game development, in my game, each dungeon you complete rewards you with a new type of weapon. The only issue is, so far, I only have a default sword, and it's about time we start making some other weapons. So, as I was waiting for the previous model to finish, I decided to go look for another seller, to see if we could get two things done side by side. Another huge upside to hiring people to do work instead of doing everything yourself. Suddenly, work can be done in parallel. And I found one! I'm looking for a weapon for my game. I'll include a picture below for the inspiration. It should be a scythe, which is going to be used by a Grim Reaper type of enemy. The character itself isn't needed. what would you estimate something like that would cost?
Great, yes, I will gladly help you with the weapon for your character. I can improvise based on the reference image and taking into account the model. I could make you an offer for $25. Do you think it's okay? If you agree, we will put together the offer for you and we will start whenever you want. I can finish it for you in 3 days.
Sounds good. If there's a bit of a skull shape on it, that would be great. Maybe on the bottom of the pole or maybe on the cross of the scythe or something. The only important thing for the textures is it should be a purple color, maybe with some pink accents. At least the blade. The pole can be a little bit less vibrant, I think. Aside from that, feel free to be creative. Only a few days later I got my first draft and man, I do really love this. This looks so much more tight and neatly done than my own art. And the final delivery came only a day later. Things just keep getting better, and all this again for only $25. Once imported into Unreal Engine though, the actual mesh wireframe looked good, but there is about 38,000 triangles here, which seems to be largely due to the fact that the bevels are very detailed, and the skull mesh on the cross is a very high poly mesh, maybe a bit more than altogether needed. But it's also not something that I think will really cause an issue, so for this price I still don't think I can really complain about minor nitpicks about things being too detailed. Now, the last one. With 2 props being done, I think we should try to find something a little bit more exciting. How about we try and find a character? I've had an idea for this character that's a little bit like a bandit that you find snooping around the entire game. But as so many other things, ideas stay ideas. But this seems to be the perfect chance to actually get this one done. I don't have a very clear image in my mind though for what this character should look like. Only that I imagine it looks somewhat like a Spyro enemy. So that's really the only reference image that I have for this one. And with that, I contacted the third seller. Hey, I'm looking for someone to help me making a character for my game. I'll add a few images so you can see if you think you can make something in a style like that.
Hello, thank you for contacting me. I am glad to hear that you have an idea to discuss. Please note that this is an automated response. I will get back to you as soon as possible. In the meantime, if you have any reference materials that you would like to share regarding your thoughts, please feel free to send them my way.
For the character, I'm thinking something a little bit like this, but somewhat more dark to fit in with the other designs, like a grave robber or bandit.
Okay, that can be done. Do you need the rig also, or just the model in the same color and texture with the bag on hand?
I just need the model in a T-pose. I'll do the rigging and such all in the game engine. So it just needs to be something like that image. It's okay if it's a little bit different. The only things that are important to me are number 1, the little mask across his eyes, number 2, the bag he's holding in his hands, and number 3, for the arms to be long enough so that they can reach over to the bag without having to clip through the body.
Great then, only the model. I will give you FBX then. Maybe that is what you want. Also, do me a favor from the image, I can't actually figure out the legs. Do you have any idea for that one also?
I think he has pretty short legs from what I can see, but maybe it's nicer if the legs are a little bit longer than this. I don't really mind either way. As long as it looks good in proportion to its body, I'm happy to trust in your expertise to see what ends up working best. Oh, and the gem he's holding in his other hand won't be needed, by the way. For obvious reasons, this one did take the longest. Making a character is a whole lot of work. But after only 2 more days compared to the previous one, I got a delivery, and I have to say this also looks amazing. I'm honestly impressed with how well this character was recreated from only 1 reference image. I had expected, and maybe even hoped, that there would be a little bit more creative interpretation here to make up for the lack of reference material, but the seller managed to recreate this thing from just 1 single image. The model itself has about 75,000 faces, which altogether is pretty good for a character like this. It's not crazily optimized, but it's more than good enough for any modern game engine. The polygons around the eyes and mouth aren't fantastically optimized for animation though, but aside from that, I have all the detail in the places where I need them. And when I need to animate this character, we'll figure out how much of a problem that actually ends up being. All that I got for another $65. So without having to worry about anything and spending about $100 or so, I now have 3 assets that I can instantly use without having to slow down my actual game development. These models are more well done than anything I could have reasonably made. The time it saved me was much better served elsewhere in my development, doing things that I personally have to do. And most importantly, not having to bounce back between coding, modeling, texturing, level design, and all the other things allowed me to stay in much more of a flow state with much more focus on the things that I was actually creating, the levels themselves. It ended up being so much more efficient because of that. So don't be afraid to have other people help you out in areas that you might not feel super confident about. There's a reason that all big game studios are such large companies. No single person can really do this on their own. I will leave a link down below in the description to the sellers that I worked with for this video, so do feel free to go contact them and maybe hit them up for a little bit of 3D modeling if there's anything you need for your own projects. They really do deserve the extra work. And use the promo code TCG to let them know I sent you. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,